Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Midweek Madness episode. This time we will be picking up with our continued adventures in Barony with myself and the Fuax. Now, last time we left off, we had just narrowly avoided the confrontation with the Minotaur and thrown ourselves into... I'm not particularly sure where we are. There are a number of secret levels in this game. I believe this is one of them. Now, I have no idea what the floor is called. I was too focused on trying to stay alive to actually tell you, so you might want to buckle in, because this particular floor is a good one. Now, as you can see, I am still rocking the spear and magic combo. The Fuax has flipped over to his magical bow and shield combo, which is a relatively good setup for the rogue, to be honest. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering why this floor is empty, and I was pondering the same question myself. I mean, it's not common to actually come across someone like this which is full of stuff, except there are no enemies. It did sort of make me rather nervous. I wasn't really used to it. I mean, the doors automatically opening and all that kind of stuff, it would set a really bad tone for me. So I wanted to fully check out this area before we did anything else. That is why I sort of went exploring. The Fuax is currently re-equipping himself, well, currently re-equipping herself with equipment, and the really nice magical staff I found was a magical staff of magical missile, which is nice. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you realise that ranged combat is normally the best way to deal with the Baron in this game. The Baron is excessively overpowered offensively, so you want to have relatively good range weapons to dodge attacks. You can engage him in melee, but you need to have a very particular setup, which is to have a lot of magical resistance and have a lot of armour on and have your armour blessed. Now, even then you want to be relatively tough melee wise, because his magic is extremely powerful. And it would be nice if there was, I don't know, if there was some way to fight for Baron which wasn't melee. You can do, so that wasn't range, you can do melee, as I have said, but it's like a real gamble and you need to know what you're doing. I wish the developers would do something that would make the Baron a bit more balanced. I mean, not make him easier, because I like having a nice challenging boss fight at the end of the game, but I would have preferred if the Baron was more balanced, so you could engage him in ranged or in melee combat, not just having to engage him in ranged combat all the time. Sorry, having a drink of my water. Because it makes it feel like all the effort that you went into making your character, like 75% of it goes out the window when you fight the Baron. Because unless you have decent range skills, you're relatively screwed. So it becomes a bit pointless in, say, engaging in a lot of melee combat, because you can't engage the Baron in melee combat. You need to get your bow skills, you need to get your range skills up. So if you're playing as a knight or something, you have to get a bow and practice with that, or if you're playing as a mage, you need to get your magic up. It's one of these sort of catch-22 scenarios. Now, I have no idea what the point of this dungeon is. I know there's a lot of gold. I know the Fuax has been here before because he knows where all the secret rooms and stuff are, which are really cool. We get some various bits and pieces, new spell book, some armour. I mean, it's nothing to sneer at, but I'm just, see, look, he's dug through the wall to get to the secret chamber behind. But I just don't have any clue of what the purpose of this floor is. I think it's one of those rare bonus floors where it's heavily biased on how you act in it. For example, if we just gone straight through and not touched anything, it probably would have ended up being relatively worthwhile for us. We could have just quickly blitzed a level and kept going. But I got the distinct feeling that oh yeah, that was bad. What happened there was that he'd somehow aggroed the NPC somehow. I don't know how he'd managed it, but the NPC then decided to attack him, so I had to sort of finish him off, which was really frustrating. The AI in this game can be a bit weird, especially how they sort of walk in front of your attacks, and then they get hit, and then obviously they become aggroed against you and go after you. It would be nice if it only happened, like, if you did it twice in a short period of time or something, because just accidentally hitting someone with friendly fire on makes them go aggroed, and it's like, well, that's not my fault. Now, as you can see, this is what happens when we go outside. The problem is that we've been inside here, we walk out. Wait a minute, I haven't been here yet. Lots of money. I mean, this place was relatively good. I don't know what, I think this was like a cursed castle or something. You walk outside and you will all notice straight away all the tombstones. And that's never a good sign, because as soon as we step outside, this happens. And you can see all the little white little dots on the map, and literally an absolute ton of zombies pop out. And of course, as we go out here, even more zombies, an absolute horde of them. We are literally surrounded on all sides by a massive horde of zombies. I didn't stop to count how many, but I'm thinking at least 20, if not more. And now I found myself in a situation where I'm in a room, in an area where I can't get out of because they're literally swarming with zombies. They've pinned me in, and I'm trying to desperately figure out how to escape. I thought we were both going to go to the exit and just flee, but the Fuax wanted to obviously stay there and kill all the ghouls and zombies for XP. So I have to now sort of sprint back to the starting zone, hoping that I can get there before the zombies do. The Fuax is currently sort of fighting a ghoul, and I sort of help him. And now we sort of try and make our final stand in the sort of the starting area, which is probably a smart idea, to be honest, because the starting room is actually quite larger than the other three, so it gives you a lot better chance to actually hold off the undead. Now, as you can see, we've dealt with most of the zombies on this particular section, but there's still a lot more coming from the other areas, so we have to sort of gear up and get ready, because you can see them advancing through the gloom. I mean, I like the fireball. You can set enemies on fire. I don't think you can panic enemies with fireball. I don't know. But as you can see, it really does drain mana a lot. I wish the area of effect on it was bigger, though. It has a relatively... I think it has an area of effect. I'm not totally sure. But the fireball is a relatively good spell if you know how to use it properly. Unfortunately, all the food we got here was basically rotten, so it's just pointless to have. Which is unsurprising, considering that they're all zombies, so anything you would get from them would be rotten meat. But yeah, we're sort of trying to sort of, I suppose you could say, herd them. Some of them always bug out, which is never a problem, but you want to sort of... I suppose what the Fuax was trying to do was that he was trying to go down one side and lure the rest of the zombies to basically follow us around in a very slow, like, slog, so we could finish off the ones behind us relatively easily. And it works fairly well. I mean, as you can see on the map, we've managed to basically cart a good deal of the undead away from us, and the only ones that are sort of left are the ones that get stuck on scenery or get stuck on corners, because that tends to happen with the AI occasionally. They'll tend to get themselves into a position where they can't get out of. So it worked out fairly well. I mean, I didn't have any problem with it. It works. Only downside is that obviously we had a lot of the undead to kill, so which is never a fun thing to do. I was just finishing off some of the ones that I'd set on fire, and just this lone straggler that seemed to have been left behind. Now, yeah, we sort of jumped from the teleporter. I didn't see the point of sort of waiting to show you us going to the teleporter. We're getting to the maze area. Now, I'm not a massive fan of this maze area. I find it fairly frustrating to play in, even with magical map. I don't like the narrow little corridors that seem to dominate a lot of these maps. So, yeah, I just don't like them, to be honest. I mean, I don't like the forest area, but the forest area is more engaging to play in. This one is just a lot of very narrow little bendy corridors full of traps, which is never good. Picking up some of the potions I find that taking the potions which have negative effects are quite useful because you can throw them at people. It's always a benefit if you have stuff to throw, because even if it's like just a rock, you can still hurt an enemy. I mean, you won't hurt a troll or something like that, obviously, because they're tough as nails and as hard as anything. But you can still do a fair lot of damage to other enemies just using a rock or the like. I mean, the potions work relatively well. Potion of blindness, personal potion of confusion, stuff like that. If you throw it at an enemy, it will do what it says on the tin and basically blind them, confuse them, poison them. So my advice would be, if you get a poison potion which is relatively strong, hang on to it just so you can throw it at someone. But you want, one thing I will reiterate is that you will want to have the potion in your hot menu. Never have it in your inventory, because if you have it in your inventory and you go to throw it at someone, you run the risk of poisoning yourself. It's much better to have it in your quick menu and then just to bring it out and throw it, because that way it's a lot harder. I don't think you can actually drink potions from your hot menu. You might be able to. I've always drunk them from my inventory screen, so you might be able to. I'd have to experiment with throwing potions. I know you can throw potions. The Fuax did it earlier in the episode, but to be honest, I don't tend to have the clarity of mind at the time to actually hold off not getting eaten by something in the process. So as soon as something turns up, I tend to just sort of get frantic and start hitting it with sharpened sticks. Must be the caveman in me coming out. And now we sort of descend into the fun time of the maze. I'm not a fan of the maze level. I find it fairly frustrating, especially if you don't have the right gear for it. Fortunately, we had all of the spells that you really need, like the magical mapping, like the mining. But I've been here before where you haven't had magical mapping and you haven't had the mining, and it's just unpleasant. It's tedious. I find this level very frustrating, especially if you run afoul of the minotaur in it. The minotaur turning up on this floor is an absolute pain in the backside, because you have to run around all the little tiny corridors and he just smashes through everything like a bulldozer. So it's not really that evenly, I won't say evenly balanced, because nothing is really that balanced in Barony. It's not the most compelling level to be on, level section to be on, I suppose you could say. It's very one-sided in favour of the DM, I find, especially if you're with people that don't sort of know what equipment they need. If you're playing with people who are experienced, like the Fuax, like myself, like Wizardfish, they tend to know what you need to do for each level. Like, for example, if you want to, you can go to the Minotaur level here, so you need to have a pickaxe or a magical mining spell. If you want to be able to run through levels quickly, you need to have magical mapping. That's just how the game works. If nothing else, you want to have magical mapping by the time you get to this level, the third level, because otherwise you end up doing what a lot of people do, which is wandering around in the maze in confusion and bumping into relatively tough opponents, because what tends to be lurking in the maze are trolls and poison scorpions. Now, poison scorpions themselves aren't annoying. Their abilities can be frustrating with poison and paralysis, but it's the trolls in this game which are a pain, in this level, which are a real pain, because of the maze-like nature of it, and the fact that if you haven't got, say, a ring of awareness or something else equipped, you can just turn a corner and find yourself slap bang in the face of a troll, which, trust me, is not a particularly pleasant thing to do. Also, I have found that the maze tends to screw up your magical lighting spells, because you'll go around the corner quickly and the magical lighting spell will get caught on the corner, and then it will be stuck, and then you can't see anything. So it's in your best interest to basically constantly recharge your magical spells, or your light spell if you've got them. Torches aren't so much of a pain. As you can see here, an unfortunate adventurer gets done in by a scorpion. They can be really nasty depending about how the hit percentage goes, and if you get paralysed or not. If you get paralysed, they can finish you off relatively quickly. Picked up another NPC. They're good cannon fodder, to be honest. I mean, I'm not being nasty about them, but at the end of the day, the NPCs in this game serve two predominantly simple roles. One of them is as distraction to lure monsters away from you. The other one is as cannon fodder to basically absorb enemy attacks while you kill the creature, because the NPCs don't really take that much damage, or do that much damage, to be honest. They're not the sort of powerhouses that you find in some other RPGs, where the NPCs are the ones that do a lot of damage, especially if you kit them out correctly. In this, they are relatively weak, even with good equipment. I don't believe they even level up, so it's sort of inevitable that the NPCs die. I know it's a nasty thing to say, but at the end of the day, it just sort of happens. Plus the fact is, as I said, the AI can be really dodgy, so it's sort of like a Russian roulette about taking NPCs. Half the time they can be really useful, and half the time they can either get you into dangerous situations or they'll kill you on sight. Sorry, my dog is barking, I can't really help it. Now, we're just basically exploring. This is the thing, this is the difference between me and Defuax. I found Defuax likes to explore a lot. I'm a much more cautious person, I suppose, from the fact that I play a lot more. I don't know, I'm just a lot more hesitant. I suppose it's from all the times I've played games like Mount and Blade Warband and stuff like that, where being aggressive really penalises you, or playing stuff like Dark Souls. You really don't want to be aggressive in Dark Souls if you want to survive. And the problem is this bleeds over into Barony, where I really am not the most aggressive player, and if I can, I tend to avoid combat if I can. Now I know that seems stupid, and I've said, oh, you need to kill things to get your level up, and it's important to get your level up. But for me, it's like, oh, there are 3 trolls in that room. Do I really want to go in there and fight the 3 trolls on my own? And a lot of the time the answer is no, I don't want to go in there and fight the 3 trolls on my own, because it's not fun, and it's risky as anything, especially if you're playing on single player. Now, with these large rooms, you're never quite sure what to find. It's normally trolls, but it can be other things. And we're just sort of exploring for loot. I mean, by this point we've got fairly good equipment, and I think the Fuax is just sort of looting the place clear, like he tends to. Now, as always, you have to be careful of trolls. I've said it before. Trolls are one of these frustrating enemies you get in the game, where they won't engage you directly, they won't like hunt you down, but they have very large patrol paths, so just really be careful about it, folks. I mean, the amount of times Defuax and I have walked around a corner and walked into the troll and it's kicked our head in is more than I like to count, so it is always advisable to get a ring of warning, to get an enemy detection spell, or just to be really aware of your surroundings. I mean, if you do get a troll, you can run away from them, and they're fairly slow. They're not a very fast enemy in this game, so you can outpace them. Defuax picking up a jester's hat, getting some more food. This is always the way I find in Barony, which is that when you have hunger on, you never get enough food, and when you have hunger off, you get too much food. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the game compensating for something, if it's just our screwy luck, but I wish they'd stop doing it, because I really like playing with hunger, but it's a pain in the backside when you just have no food and you just die constantly to hunger, because it's not enjoyable for people to watch. Now we're pretty much getting to the end of this video, I believe. So I'm going to pretty much call it quits here for the end of the day. If you guys have liked, please press the like button. If you wish to subscribe, please press the subscription button. Gave myself a bit of food poisoning. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at the links provided below. There will be another Barony episode tomorrow. I'm hopefully going to be finishing off the adventure by Friday. And horrible scorpions. And there will be a Pixel Piracy episode sometime later today, so I'll catch you all next time. This has been Cornish-Knight, and I hope you've all enjoyed this episode of Midweek Madness.